we took too much and we need to give it back. And there are ways that we can do it. If it's cutting them a check or lowering taxes, I'd love to see a 5% sales tax.
Those are the Republicans. They were on with me a couple of weeks ago. Governor McKee is in with me today. He doesn't want to cut the sales tax to 5%, just 6.85. Let's get into that next.
Holding the powerful accountable from Washington, D.C. to right here in southern New England. This is 10 News Conference with Gene Valicenti.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Gene Valicenti. This is 10 News Conference. Joining me in studio is Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee, fresh from re-election, fresh from being sworn in, and fresh from welcoming a new grandchild into the family. Congratulations to you and your family on that.
Yes, Mabel James, I got to have a picture with her last night. Yeah. Very excited.
Where did Mabel come from? Is that a family name?
No, I think it just, Matt and Laura thought that was a good name, and that matched up with James, which is, a name in our family. My dad was James, right. And brothers of James.
And they live in Rhode Island, so you'll be close to them.
And they live in Rhode Island. We're very thrilled.
Well, that's nice. You know, before we went on, you were showing me some pictures. We're taping on a Friday, 1 o'clock, and I had a full day on the radio yesterday going back and forth. There's a feud going on between the DOT and Mayor Grabian over homeless people under the overpass in Pawtucket. And you went there to see it, and you just showed me some pictures. Now I'm going to ask our director, roll some video of this, because this is the mess we've been talking about on Channel 10 for the past couple of days. Governor, that's basically what you saw and took some pictures of with your own phone today, correct?
Yes, yes.
All right. What's going on, Governor? One agency is blaming the mayor is blaming the agency. Did you solve this today?
Well, we're certainly getting them together. You know, the purpose there is twofold. One is found housing for somebody who is, struggling right now, and the other piece is the clean up, right?
Yep.
So, you know that we're very interested. I had in my State of State speech, about litter-free Rhode Island. Please go to the website, take the pledge. This is an example of what I'm talking about. That's why we're putting money in the budget to help create a litter-free Rhode Island. And this is, clearly the litter part of it. We got to take care of that. The state's got to take care of that in terms of, placing individuals that are homeless right now. We've been at this for a while. We know it's a partnership between the city, the state, and also the individuals who provide the service. So we just got to get them together, and they can't be there on the highway.
No, they've been there for weeks, Governor.
Yeah.
And the DOT told the mayor, every other city in town, Mayor Grabian, moves the homeless, and then you send us an email, okay, it's good to go clean it up. And Peter says, I send the trucks and I send the hazmat. He says, this works everywhere else. In Pawtucket, though, Mayor Grabian yesterday said, that's a state problem. That's a state roadway, that's a state overpass, that's DOT Director Peter Alvidi's problem. He should take care of the homeless. Now, there seems to be a difference of opinion. What do you know about prior agreements and how it's supposed to work?
Well, first, Mayor Grabian's been really helpful on multiple fronts, including this issue in terms of housing and the homeless. So what we're going to do is we bring people together, we solve the problem, and the issue is this. We can't have trash on the highway, and we can't have people have access to the highway where the traffic's going 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. It's not fair to the people who are driving on the roads. It's certainly it's a safety issue, and it's a issue where, I'm front and center on this issue in terms of a litter-free Rhode Island. It's a mess, and it needs to be cleaned up.
But I'm looking for news today from you, Governor. Mayor Grabian says that's the state's responsibility. Your DOT director says no. The cities and towns care for the homeless, move them out, and I go in and clean. My highway workers, your employees, we're not social workers, we're not eviction specialists. Now, who's right and who's wrong? Let's make some news here.
So I can't make the news because it's a combination. Both have got a point. It clearly is not the highway workers that would exit a homeless person to a shelter. Right. But at the same point in time, we got to make sure that we're working with the local communities to house the individuals, especially that can't take care of themselves. And then the weather issues right now coming up is a perfect example of why you can't be outside during this weather. And we need to make sure that people are sheltered to keep them safe.
Is that place going to be cleaned up for the 6 o'clock news tonight?
I don't think so. But we're going to have to wait till it gets a little warmer out. But I can tell you it will be cleaned up because that's, and I had just met with the Director Alvidi about our litter-free program, along with the DEM director, along with individuals that really want to see this a concerted effort to have litter picked up. I ask people, again, go to litterfree.ri.gov take the pledge, and join my wife Susan in terms of the effort.
Well, I'll come out and help clean up. I've done that.
You've been there with me,
I've been there once
Susan.
before to help
Yes,
you. So
yes.
if you want to do it again, we'll do it. Let's get to some other pressing issues. You know, also in the news this week, we had a assistant school principal in the Providence school system who sent out an email raising money for coyotes, border smugglers, who allegedly might put the life of a child in danger. At least that's what we saw from this email. Let's help this child because the border smugglers are after them. Now you are, I've said this on the radio, you're the de facto superintendent of the Providence schools. You really are. You're the governor, the takeover's in place. What's your reaction to that? Did you get involved in that? Did you make a call to your commissioner and say, what is going on?
I'm aware of it. I know that there's, and I'm not going to be able to make news today, I know that there's an analysis of what's going on. We're going to make sure that the student is safe, which we believe he is, the student, and making sure that they're getting the right attention on it. Let's see what I don't have enough of that information, Gene, to say whether somebody did something wrong in trying to help this young man. I think it's a young student, right?
Right, yes.
So,
a teenager.
So yeah, all I know is that right now the review's going on, and we'll see what happens.
Do you shake your head like I do when I see these stories? You watch the news.
I shake
we're raising money for smugglers. Do you shake your head?
I shake my head on the stories that are relevant, but in the context of the work I do, they're really small issues. Right?
Okay,
So,
fair enough. You're right. And the work you do is big issues. How long are you going to keep the Providence schools? When do you want to give them back?
Well, I did say in my speech, and a couple people caught it, I said, we got two takeovers going on right now, one that's gone far too long, that's Central Falls, and one that has not gone quite far enough. I think the goal is during Mayor Smiley's first term is to hand back those schools to Providence, but we're not going to do it in a way that they're not doing better. And there's a reason why the state stepped in. I wasn't governor at the time, but I do agree, not only with the facilities in very, very poor condition, but the academic outcomes are really, struggling as well. So we're making progress, I think, on the facility plan. I'm hoping that the local leadership, Providence leadership, really gets behind this idea of getting 50% or more of the kids in either new or like new buildings in the next few years. And then the academic piece, we really have to pay attention to that.
Well, this is your area. You're big into education, and you were the Mr. Charter School, and when you were the mayor of Cumberland, and you had a whole after-school program, so you know about this. When are you ready to give that system back? Are you talking 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Mayor Smiley's beginning a four-year term, so what are we talking about?
I think it's certainly on the latter side of his four-year term, and I think the commissioner has been very clear. I think that it's good that the pandemic is in our rearview mirror, but it was front and center there for a while, and it has impacted our schools. And we know that not only just in Providence, but nationally and statewide, we have recovery both on the academics, and we have certainly a mental health recovery that we have to pay attention to.
And just quickly before I go to break, just take 15 seconds. Central Falls, you want to give them back yesterday? I
think it should have been done by now, and I think that local control there would make sense because state control has not done very well.
Governor McKee is my guest. We're going to talk about the sales tax and the budget and your priorities. You just gave me an interesting figure. But before I do that, just before we leave the schools, I had Mayor Alorza in, and that's his city, Providence. He said, I wouldn't send my son to the Providence Public Schools. And then I even asked Senate President Ruggiero, I wouldn't send my grandson to the Providence Public Schools, so now that you have a grandchild, would you send Mabel to the Providence Public Schools?
I would. I believe.
Now, were you just saying that?
No, I believe in public schools. Remember, we sent our kids to public schools in Cumberland. They were struggling during the time I was a mayor. They're doing significantly better today. As a result, I think, of some of the work, obviously, that's been done in the schools, but the work that we did, open up a learning center 365 days a year, getting involved in the mayoral academies in a way where we really pushed the issue. So I think you mentioned before that the role of the governor right now in Rhode Island, the Providence school, is front and center. The reason that the superintendent is sitting in that position, I had a great deal to do with that. Renewing the contracts in terms of with the teacher contracts, which were stalled, I made sure that I injected in and got that done. Right. And then, of course, with the commissioner, we provided another 3-year extension on her agreement because I think you have to stay the course. So the answer is yes, because I do believe, and this is my own personal opinion.
Even the way they are now, let me frame it and give it perspective. The way those schools are now, if you had to make that choice, would you recommend your grandchild go to the Providence Public Schools? I just can't believe that, Governor.
I would. But that's me. I happen to believe that public schools are really important to the community, and I think that one of the measurements in Providence that you asked to it is that other families that maybe are taking other options today, that's going to be the measurement when they start sending their kids to the Providence public schools. And with that happened, again, a different scenario, Cumberland, same thing. We've actually gained student population over the last 10 years in the town of Cumberland. I think the same thing is going to happen in Providence. If we're able to make progress on facilities and academic outcomes and working with the teachers and others to make that happen, I think you're going to see actually the student count go up in Providence over the next 10 years.
You just said working with the teachers. You're getting a taste of what it's like to work with the Providence Teachers Union. And you know, the mayors, prior to Brett Smiley coming in, Joe Paolino, Angel Tavares, Alorza, they all told Brett Smiley at a news conference, you get right off on the right foot and you go after those teachers union. Don't let them bully you.
You can't
be tough with them out the door. Were you surprised at that?
You can't get this work done without the teachers. And so creating a adversarial type of relationship there does not make sense. That's why I sent in new team to negotiate the Providence school contract in the first summer that I was, governor-select at the time, right? So now as governor-elect and sitting here on a 4-year term, we need to make sure that we're not playing a kumbaya here, right? Everybody's going to have a role. And by the time we get done with a strategy that we'll come out with in the first 100 days, and I think we're on day 30 now, right now, we will have a plan that will not only take about the 182 days in the school year, but we're going to talk about the 365 days in the year to create a culture where education is a top priority in every household in the state.
I can't discount Paolino, Alorza, Angel Tavares. They said, Brett Smiley, the first thing you do is get tough with that teachers union. We were there. We went through this.
How did that work out for Mayor Tavares when he fired all the teachers in Providence? You think that helped? Do you think that got us closer to a state takeover or less?
He didn't really fire them, right? He sent out the pink slip, and they all came back.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm just saying, how did that work out? Right, 3 years later or 4 years later, there's a state intervention, and I don't think anybody disagreed with the state intervention in Providence at the time when the Governor Raimondo did that.
Okay, let's go to the sales tax. You want to cut it to 6.85%. Am I reading right? Is it $39 savings per household? Because I blew that last night in the restaurant in an appetizer.
Yes, I know. So, well, you're fortunate. About $40 to some families.
It wasn't an expensive place. Come on, the prices have gone up. So the $39 at my household, I was with my wife, I would have blown that in one dinner.
I've been very specific, even in the state of the state, that we need to get competitive with both Massachusetts and Connecticut. That's the plan, is not a one-step process, but one that's fiscally responsible. People who are asking to go from 7 to 5%, like I said offline, I don't think that anybody understands that that's close to $380 million hit to the budget, potentially. I don't know how to manage that right now. So what we're doing is incrementally, over 4 years, you'll be in that right in the middle between Connecticut and Massachusetts. And if we continue to do the work we're doing and have the disciplines in the budgets, Gene, we may even get it down to that 6% that we promised the people in the state of Rhode Island during the big
You're getting a little ribbing over this, $39 household savings.
I know that, but
the Republicans say cut it to 5%, make a real cut.
Do you know that data shows that we'll be one of the first, if not the first state in the country to lower sales tax in the last 10 years? Remember, there was times when governors were asking to increase the sales tax by 1%. We're taking a position to reverse that, lower the sales taxes, lower the litter tax, give a 4% cut for the utilities across the board for businesses and also the households. And remember that some of the savings that you're talking about is to the business community. So the business community saves sales tax as well. So that $35 million on an annual savings, is split between residents and business, $17.5 million. You do it again, now that's starting to get to real money. That's $35 million and $35 million. Do it again, right? Double that up, $70 million. That'll be about $180 million of tax relief over the next 4 years that I'm in office.
Baby steps.
Do it in a way.
You're the new grandfather. Baby steps.
Do it responsibly. We did that with the car tax. I actually was able to do the car tax with the General Assembly. I think it did 50% of that tax relief, that $250 million of tax relief that the state of Rhode Island has right now, giving us a competitive advantage on both Massachusetts and Connecticut. We'll do the same thing on the sales tax.
During the debate, Governor, I asked you, I really don't know what prompted me to ask this. I said, is the budget going to be bigger or smaller? And here's what you said. Now go ahead and roll that clip from the debate. We did several, but this is the one I asked you this.
Governor, a bigger budget next year or smaller?
Yeah, so if the people on the stage understood budgets, they know it's going to be smaller. It's going to be less, all right? Because remember, $1 billion of that is not going to be there next year, so you're going to be back down.
It's actually bigger, Governor.
It's slightly
you were wrong
better.
there, yeah.
It's up a point. But remember that at that point in time, I was projecting a surplus, state surplus of around $300 million, right? The state surplus comes in because we are leading the Northeast on an economic recovery. The state surplus is projected now to be double that. So when you actually started to appropriate that state surplus into one-time expenses, that brought you up slightly above where it was before. As long as we run surpluses, that's a good thing, Gene. So I was happy the fact that we're running a $600 million surplus and not a $300 million surplus. If we ran a $300 million surplus, you would have been about a couple $100 million below what it was the previous, budget cycle.
I had the Republican leadership in a couple of weeks ago. They said, you're running a surplus? You're right. You're flush with cash. Give the money back to the people. Cut everybody a check who paid it. Why not, Governor?
And we're doing that. We did that with the child tax credit that went to
everybody didn't get that. That was
we're doing that
income-based.
We're doing that with the sales tax. I know you got your $40. I know you spent it last night at dinner, but you're still going to have $40 in your pocket.
Yeah. But you know what I mean. Massachusetts is giving everybody a check. You paid, you overpaid, here's a check back. Why don't we do that?
Well, state law in Massachusetts requires something like that. If somebody puts something like that in here, that makes sense. But remember, we've kicked the can down the road so many years that this surplus, using it for not programs, not repeatable expenses. You put it in Elena Slater last year, right?
Yep.
Elena Slater, fix Elena Slater, $173 million. We don't have to borrow those dollars. We're putting money into RIC, CCRI, URI. So we're not wasting this money. We're going to invest these dollars in a way. How about like we're proposing to increase the rainy day fund, right? We're proposing to make sure that we're putting money into our capital improvement accounts. These are dollars that are going to be helping the state of Rhode Island.
Governor, let me take one more break, and then we'll talk about gun control and other issues of importance to you. Let's continue 10 News Conference. Governor, the other day you had a news conference. You want to ban assault weapons. That's a prickly issue. We try it every year. Why do you think this year you might prevail?
I think that the temperature right now in the public understands that there is a problem with, as I said at the press conference, we have over 50 mass shootings in the country in the last 30 days. Anything that we can do to curb or to help prevent in Rhode Island, I think the public is for it. The legislation does give a grandfather right to those who currently own those weapons, but it starts to restrict the purchasing and the sale of those weapons in the state. I believe there's support there. I put it in my State of the State address. It's one of those things, Gene, where I think that, again, some of these efforts are not directly related to the economy, but the safer we make the state, it is a positive issue, and we know that it's a problem. Right. I don't think anybody would deny it's a problem. And it's a mental health issue there, too. So we're investing in mental health as well in the state of Rhode Island. So we're not ignoring, there's not one thing that can solve the problem.
We could have done the whole program on gun control. How much have you really studied this so that you've got the facts cold? I know what this assault weapon is, assault-type weapons. I know the AR-15. I know this because every time we do a story like this, we get a million emails and, oh, you're not right about that and you're not right. How much have you really studied this?
Well, I think it's a combination of things, and I think that's the problem with the two extremes where they say, you look at just enforce the laws, it's a mental health issue. I don't think that that's necessarily working everywhere in the country. We want Rhode Island to be that state that has the a balance between this mental health issue and then gun safety controls. Look, my job is to keep people safe in the state of Rhode Island. I understand that there's no political issue, Gene, that there's 100% support for. In this case, Rhode Island is going to support this. The Rhode Islanders will support this bill, and it's fair to those people who currently own the guns that they're not going to have to give those up. They just have to register them.
Did you talk to Speaker Shekarchi, Senate President Ruggiero? Is this a new version of last year's stuff? Do you think you're going to get it passed this year? And how about this? Just the person they're going to be up there screaming and yelling. I see it coming. We see it every year, and they're going to say, I pay my taxes. I behave. I have a clean record. I am a constitutional right. I want the gun. I want an assault. I want one in my hands, and I want it.
I would answer them, if you have it, you can keep it. That's the law says that. And I would also say that we have an obligation to keep the state as safe as we can. We know this preventative strategy does work. We know that states that have the best prevention have the highest safety. There's no guarantees here. But we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep the people safe in the Rhode Island.
You held a news conference the other day. I found this ironic. You with Attorney General Nerone, all the general offices, you want to ban assault-type weapons. At the same day, I was reading a headline in Florida. They're poised to allow anybody to carry a loaded gun without a permit, right? And you carry it around. Why the difference? Why the difference between that state and us? You think about politics a lot.
Yep.
What is it, Governor? Well, are those people in Florida so different from us? They're not. Most of them are Rhode Islanders down there now. Yeah. What is it?
I don't really lose sleep over the differences of the politics. I mean, I was lieutenant governor, national chair of the Lieutenant Governors Association. There's governors that were lieutenant governors in red states and blue states. They're good people. They're representing the interests that they believe that their state's populations represent. So. Would I be favoring that? No, I don't think that. Heck, I think the governor down there said he would favor people owning guns without ever permitting them. I'm scratching my head on that.
Well, you have to have a permit to buy, but this would allow you to carry without a special permit.
He's talking.
And there's so many Northerners down there, so many Rhode Islanders. What is it between Florida, the way they think, and us? What is it in the? Tell me. I'm really curious about this.
If I had the answer, I would tell you. But all I can say is that on politics, there's certainly a red and an extreme blue situation. My belief is that you got to bring this to the center, and we're ready for it. So let's see what happens in those states that are really extreme in their points of view, in their political points of view. I think that I know that the people in the state of Rhode Island live, either side of the center, and we know that the extremes are not going to agree with you on things. Like I've been in public, speeches where I have on policing, where I have the extreme right say I'm not protecting the police enough, and I have extreme left tell me that I'm protecting the police. So the difference of opinions are out there, and that's part of the nature of politics right now.
I just have about a minute and a half, and I asked you, what do you want to talk about? And you said, I want to talk about small business.
Yes.
You really believe you're helping small business?
We are.
Go ahead and take a headline.
And
Just keep in mind my time. Go ahead.
Yes, so I'll tell you indications of that. Forbes came out with a study saying that Rhode Island was 23rd in the country and opened up a small business about 2 weeks ago. We're going to see that more and more. I have somebody dedicated just to the rankings, understanding what the rankings are. That's why we asked for the corporate minimum tax to be lowered this year. That's why we're putting in different measures that, for instance, last year we did a motorcycle trade-in coming off the sales price for sales tax purposes. This year we're asking the General Assembly to do it for pickup trucks. We're going to continue to try to level the playing field with the small businesses. They're very important to the state, and we'll have another article in the budget this year that'll help support our small businesses.
All right, Governor, to be continued. We'll have you on the radio. We'll continue the conversation.
Yes.
Thanks for coming in for now. So we're catching up with you since you won election in your own right, and you were sworn in, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you, Governor.
Okay, Gene, thank you.